more about, just giving your body what it needs and giving it the time to slow down and shift gears. To find that quiet within their bodies.
Welcome to the Relational Parenting Podcast. I'm Jennifer Hayes, a parent coach and 20-year childcare veteran. Each week, I sit down with my own father, Rick Hayes, and discuss the complicated issues that parents face today, as well as some of the oldest questions in the book. From the latest research and the framework of my relational parenting method, we offer thought-provoking solutions to your deepest parenting struggles. Added bonuses include intergenerational wounding discussions and guest childcare experts. We will also start taking your parenting questions in episode 5, so be sure to comment with your biggest questions or email me directly at jenny@jennyb.co. Let's get started. Noelle Eichholtz is a sleep consultant who created Sensationally Wired to help neurodivergent individuals and their families achieve better sleep. By combining natural methods such as craniosacral therapy, yoga, breathwork, somatic work, nutrition, and healthy sleep hygiene habits, the central nervous system can become calm and relaxed to allow the body and mind to rest peacefully. Noelle understands how challenging it can be for individuals with different neurological needs to maintain a healthy sleep routine, which is why she strives to provide effective solutions that respect each person's unique needs and preferences with compassionate and personalized sleep consulting services. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Relational Parenting Podcast. Our guest this week here with us today is Noelle Eichholtz. Noelle and we met through a mutual friend, right? Emily connected us.
Emily, yes.
And through nannyship, newborn care specialist, etc., we met through the childcare world and connected and did a trade show together and have just been helping each other as we go along on this entrepreneurial journey. And Noelle has now started her company, Sensationally Wired, where she works with neurodivergent children and families.
Hi, thank you.
Hey.
Awesome. We are so excited to have you here today. I'm so excited for you to tell the world about this. I've been excited about this for months since you first told me about it. We did our trade show together. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so needed for parents, for nannies, for anyone who's taking care of children, to have these special skills to be helping kids with different abilities, different brains, different nervous systems, who need more than just a typical way to settle or calm down. And really a lot of these techniques that you're going to talk about today could help any child. They would help me, they would help any adult. So you just have such a breadth of knowledge and talent. And yeah, tell us about yourself, Noelle. Tell us about what you do, and let's get this information out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Jenny said, I am Noelle with Sensationally Wired. This is kind of a love child of mine that's been growing for about 25 years. And throughout my 25 years in childcare, I did babysitting, I had an in-home daycare, was a career nanny, became a newborn care specialist, and then went on to be a sleep trainer and sleep consultant, essentially. And along with that, so I've always had a passion for kids. Even when I was a kid, I loved babies, loved kids. And throughout kind of a parallel line in my growth, I was going to go to medical school, loved medicine, and wanted to help people. And then that just kind of fell on the wayside, but I did have some medical training, became a massage therapist, as well as a certified newborn massage instructor. So I've been massaging, babies and newborns for about 24 years now.
Wow.
And through that, I then became a yoga instructor. I can teach meditation and breath work. Then after that, I became very involved in somatic work. And then I became a craniosacral practitioner. Craniosacral is a very light bodywork modality where we reset and balance the central nervous system. So over the last couple of years, I've been thinking that I wanted to kind of find my niche and put all of these things together. And through some of my nannying, I have had kids that had neurodivergences, from autism with ADHD, ADD, sensory processing disorder, and through the gambit of just neurodivergences. And then last year, I wanted to find a class, a certification, so that I can learn more for helping these neurodivergent kids sleep better, because most of them struggle. And what I found was there wasn't any training. There wasn't any courses. There are definitely some doctors out there that have written books and workbooks, and some planners. But as far as having a course for a sleep professional to take to learn more, I personally haven't found it as of yet. If you're hearing this and you have it, please reach out, because I want to talk.
Right.
So after that, I decided to create that. And since I've been doing that, I have been hearing about more and more sleep consultants getting into this field, because there is such a lack in service and support for these families. Of, well, how do you get your ADHD kid who's running around to relax, to sleep? And how do you get them to sleep through the night when they wake up and their brain and body are ready to go? So because sleep is so important for how we function as a person, and how we relate to life. And if you're tired, things get a little wonky, or a lot wonky, depending on how little sleep you get. So yeah, with all of my training has really been focused on the nervous system, getting things to calm down with the massage and the craniosacral and the yoga and the breath work and the meditation and the somatic work. And all of this has coalesced into this beautiful company that I've created, and looking forward to talking with families and parents and kids, so that I'm doing research studies to see if there's a correlation between the type of neurodivergent, and if there's specific techniques or methods that work for those divergences, so that I can create courses for parents and sleep professionals, because it's so important. And it's a field that's getting more awareness and attention, and I'm glad to be a part of it, and excited to kind of see where it goes.
I love that.
Very cool.
And it's
another source of people to have intentional ways to deal with behaviors they're having with their kids that they don't know how to deal with.
Well, and it's another thing that, once again, if we start these things in childhood, there's more awareness now around how sleep quality really affects our health, right? Like, if you don't get good sleep, it literally throws everything off. Like, you get certain food cravings if you have a lack of sleep. You have, obviously, like, tired, lack of emotional regulation, lack of everything regulation, hormonal regulation, so many ways that sleep affects us. And if we can get people these tools and start with kids, then those kids get to grow up with those tools and continue to use them into adulthood, and then teach their kids. And then eventually maybe we can, exponentially improve the health and well-being of human beings, the life satisfaction, all of those things.
Absolutely.
But in a more narrowed down sense, working with newborns up through older kids on their sleep is also going to provide parents with relief. It's going to help parental sleep. It's going to help parental well-being and health overall. So I'm really excited that you're doing this. And you have, like I said, like you just mentioned a lot of like most of the things that you do. And I've got like my list here of all the things we've talked about. And I'm just like, God, like you just wrap this up into a beautiful box and just give it to families as like, obviously not as a gift, like you deserve to be paid for it, but it is such a gift that you have all of these modalities to bring to the table. What have you noticed are some of the, I guess, tried and true, because each kid is different, right? Each kid that you work with is going to be a little bit different or a lot different, and have different needs and different techniques and things that they like or don't like, or that work for them or don't work for them. But I'm curious if there are any of these modalities that really have stood out for you, that it's like, this kind of works for pretty much anyone, or could be an option for people to try at home with their kid.
Yeah. I mean, if it's just like a general, instead of like focusing on one case study or a specific issue, overall, for general, really working on getting a schedule and a routine set down around bedtime. And because what happens is when kids are playing, they're in the moment, they don't want to shift gears, they're happy doing what they're doing, and they don't want to go to bed, they don't want to stop playing. Yeah. So, but if you have this routine and they know what's coming and they know what to expect, that creates a safety within their bodies, within their nervous systems. Yeah. And within this safety, they know what's coming and their body begins to relax. And so they can fall asleep better, and sleep better. So that's one. So again, really just working on nervous system regulation. Another one would be having them breathe, and either teaching them just simple belly breaths. Something else that I teach parents and kids is to get a crazy straw, just a silly straw. And as you breathe through it, it changes how, because it's a little bit harder, the nervous system relaxes and calms down. So there are tons of games that you can do around silly straws, and kids love silly straws. Right? They think it's a game, but fun. Yeah, it's really just, it makes it fun to breathe, and so they love that. Another thing is really focusing on their diet. And I'm not saying, because a lot of kids with sensory issues, their diet can revolve around brown food. Their diets can revolve around crunchy food or soft food, or things like that. And I know that is a completely different ball game, and that's working on a whole new level. But being aware of things like sugar or having too much milk, because there's a lot of sugar in milk, and so a lot of parents will give kids milk before bed, and sometimes it's great for them, but other times it wires them up because of the lactose, which breaks down into sugar.
That's right. I always forget that lactose it's a sugar. I always forget that. Yeah,
anything that ends in ose, fructose, lactose, it's a sugar. Yep. And if you can, of course, have a good, well-balanced diet, but just being aware of sugar and caffeine before bed is super important.
Yeah.
And the other thing is just really creating a safe place in their bed and creating that environment in their rooms. And there's so many suggestions around how to have a good sleep environment, a good safe sleep environment for the kids to relax with. Those, and then there, like I said, there are so many different things, but those are like across the board for either neurodivergent or neurotypical or just humans in general.
Right.
Doesn't really have to be a kid. It's more about, just giving your body what it needs and giving it the time to slow down and shift gears.
Yeah.
To find that quiet within their bodies.
I love that. And that's even sleep advice that we get as adults is like, don't do work in your bed. Don't do anything in your bedroom except sleep. Like that is so that when your body walks in there, maybe you have a sleep time routine. Mine is like, I wash my face, brush my teeth. Like there's specific things that I do. I put on cuticle oil on my nails. Like that one, like feels luxurious. Like it feels like something to look forward to. Like it's just like a little tiny thing, but it's something that feels good.
I'll have to start doing
you
that.
Should. It feels like, but creating something like the crazy, that's like
cuticle.
But that's like the crazy straws for kids is like, this is a fun thing to look forward to at bedtime, because we talked about this in another episode that bedtime is a time of separation. And that is the hardest part of the day for children is when they are separated from you emotionally and in their nervous system. That is a dangerous thing to be separated from you. Mm-hmm. And so creating a bedtime that is full of safety and love and joy and maybe a little fun makes it feel, safe. I don't know what other word to use, but, and allows their nervous system to calm down enough to go to sleep. And so having a bedtime routine for yourself, translate that down to your children. They need a bedtime routine too, to calm. It signals their bodies, okay, it's time to start calming down. It's, we're going to head to bed. Mm-hmm. So Noelle, when you go into, you have in the past, you've gone into homes locally and worked with families hands-on. And then you're also planning to create courses online where parents can access and learn these tools to utilize themselves in their homes, nation or worldwide. Right. But I'm curious about, what does a session look like if you were to, a family hires you to help them with their neurodivergent child? We just cannot, a sleep routine isn't working, or this isn't working. We cannot get this child to sleep through the night, and they're 5 years old, or whatever the situation might be. What does it look like for you to go into a home and work with people?
So currently, I am mainly doing consulting, so it'll be online. Yeah. If there is a local family, then I would go in, 1 to 3 nights to show the parents how it looks and what to expect. But currently, I am mainly doing online consulting. So what that process looks like is I have 3 different packages, and once they decide which package they would like, they will fill out a sleep questionnaire about what the issues are or what is working well. And just so I can have a good overall view of what their sleep looks like. Yeah. I will also ask them about their days and how their diet is, and if they get outside to play, or if how much screen time they have.
Mm-hmm.
They will also fill out a sleep log, which will go for about a week, and to see if there's any patterns.
Yeah.
They'll tell me when the kid is put into bed, when they are actually going to sleep, when they wake up in the morning, if they are waking up in the middle of the night, and if there's any issues, if there's sleep terrors or sleepwalking, nightmares, recurring bedwetting, things like that. So just getting an overview of a week-long sleep, and then also if there's any napping during the day, because a lot of kids, if they're not sleeping at night, they're going to try to get naps during the day to make up, but then those naps can affect their nighttime sleep. So we'll go through that, and then they'll fill out another form just to let me know if there's any diagnosed neurodivergences, if they are seeing any therapists or doctors, whether it's OT, PT, psychologists, or ABA therapies. And once I have a really good overview, and they fill out their sleep log for a week, we will then have a 1-hour consultations to gonna go over any more details about their issues or their concerns with their child's sleep. And then I really want to find also the parents' temperament, because some are okay with listening to their kids cry and struggle, and then some that absolutely do not want any of that. And so the parents' temperament, I take into account of what sleep method and techniques we're going to use to help their kid go to sleep. And after our hour-long conversation, and during that conversation, we'll go over what I think would be an appropriate sleep technique to help their kid with their struggle. And then after our call, I will create a step-by-step sleep plan for them because a lot of the times when we're talking about this stuff, they may not retain everything that we talk about, or they'll forget to write something out. So I will then create a sleep plan of here's your step-by-step of what we talked about during our call. So that's
cool.
That's kind of what to expect. And I know it seems like a lot, but sleep is complicated. It's not just this, you get into bed, you lie down, and you go to sleep. Like, I've struggled with insomnia since I was 10, and it took me about a little over 25 years to figure out how to sleep and what my body needed. And so I spent, again, 25 years of my own personal journey trying to figure out how to just sleep personally. And because I've tried all these other things, I was like, oh, now I know what works. At least for me. And then I can take all those other things of, I tried this, it didn't really work for me, but it might for you. So
very cool. That's the first thing I thought when you said that about working with parents to get kids to sleep, was how much of the work is actually with the parents.
Most of it.
Especially young parents.
That's going to be what I said too.
There's a hectic environment. It's like, no. There's back to the safety and the expectations, the predictability, the wind down, all these things you guys have been talking about. It's like, you got, and performing some of the techniques on the parents so that they have an understanding of what, the craniosacral, the body work, so that the parent has an understanding of the effect on the child, personally. That sounds like that could all be very educational, especially if you had a kid that was particularly challenged going to sleep. I mean, there's enough of that with just any young child,
Right.
Any young child, right?
sleep
Absolutely.
training, let alone if there's a particular nervous system upset or something.
Right.
We talked about that in our friendship and in previous conversations, Noelle, of how much work with kids is actually work with parents, whether it's nannying or newborn care specialist or sleep consulting or consulting with neurodivergent kids. It's, 90 to 95%, it's working with parents.
That's
yeah. Because it's the parents.
Yeah, I was about ready to say like 90, 95, right?
Yeah.
Because kids are just
kids.
The work is educating parents.
Yep.
Because no one walks into parenting. We've said this a billion times. No one walks into parenting with all of these tools and skills. Yeah. Parenting isn't taught.
There's no test, no degree, no
there's
training, no
nothing.
preparation.
Yeah, I think some people take like Lamaze for birth and then how to change a diaper. There's like a one-off parenting class at hospitals is what I've seen. Or there's court-ordered parenting classes when things are like really bad and kids are getting sent to foster care and taken out of the home. And that's a whole other level and place to be that isn't, this just parenting, standard parenting is so hard and so self-reflective and so mind-boggling and chaotic. And then you add anything on top of that, like having a child with a different brain than a typical child or anything else. And it's just like, what do I do? Where do I go? What book do I read? How do I actually know, who's been doing what or has the degree to do the thing? And is it going to work for my kid? And that's why I'm so excited that you're like having someone who's been doing it for 25 years, who's worked with so many different kids, so many different kinds of families, and has such a huge toolbox. It's like you are guaranteed to find something that works, and to be able to evaluate the details of their lives and be like, try this.
Absolutely.
I think it's so cool that there are so many resources available now and accessible that you can find with the internet and YouTube and podcasts and whatever, with steps to take before you just go to your pediatrician or before there's all kinds of people to talk to and things to learn and before you that are just like, hey, we didn't do that in my family. Hey, that would be a good idea kind of stuff to pick up before you decide, it's a tumor, before it's some kind of serious medical problem.
Right.
Well, and it's in like pediatricians.
It's not a tumor.
Oh my God. Pediatricians are also specialists. Like pediatricians are fantastic and they know a lot of things. And they have a specialty in the medical arena with kids. And
Absolutely.
so, there's a lot of other modalities outside of the medical community for parents to tap into.
Yeah, because a lot of there are great pediatricians out there, and I've also spoken to a lot of them, and a lot of them don't have classes about nutrition or regulation or sleep, and they can say, okay, well, go over here and check out a sleep consultant, because unfortunately, that's just something is. I feel it could be stronger within the community for sure. And I highly respect pediatricians and their work with the body. But it's the body, and sleep is different, and nutrition is different, and it's a good idea to have a team of specialists to really look at the body as a whole. And get those people who know about those different fields and come together to, to treat everything. So, because not one person is going to be an expert in everything. So
everybody has their wheelhouse. Yep. That's what specialty
absolutely.
is. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I love it. I want to touch more on working with parent temperament. Because something that you said in one of our conversations was that there's so much trying to control and change children versus just listening to who and what they are and letting them be, and then meeting them where they are. So much, and I've witnessed this too, and that's why you and I have talked about it, is through working with families in their private homes. Nannies see things that even their like closest friends and family don't see, because we are in the home every day, or often enough. We are operating as if we are part of the family. And so after a couple of months, you always know when when parents have gotten comfortable with you being around, because you start seeing them bicker with each other, or you start seeing them lose their cool with the kids, or you start seeing things that people keep under wraps or keep hidden from the general public about general human flaws that we all have. And
you get past polite.
So we get comfortable. We learn to trust each other. And then that also means that we now get to see uglier sides of one another. And for us as nannies, it's like, this is our job and we're professionals. So we still are maintaining that, but because we're in the parent's home, they're letting loose a little more, because it's my house and this is where I live. And so that's just the natural flow of things. So you and I, Noelle, and anyone else who's been a long-term nanny in any capacity knows what this feels like, to watch the slow, almost trickling of real, who you really are behind closed doors, that starts to come out. And you get to witness people really at their worst, or close to it. And we can almost see through that experience exactly what parts of the parent are causing the hard things that are happening with the children, or at least influencing it heavily. And you watch the children react and respond to how the parent is showing up
in real time.
And that's probably a huge reason that you and I are both where we are right now, starting these businesses and wanting to help families with these techniques. And because it's so real, and it's so hard, because we as nannies, we're not perfect either. We have our own triggers and our own ways of showing up on not our best days with children, and everybody does it. But the way that a biological connection affects the well-being of a child, or the behaviors or the reactions or the safety of a child, is a very special bond that you really can't get anywhere else. And so the witnessing of parents and their behavior, and the way that it does cause a child, because a child has no control over themselves yet, not, or very little. I don't know. I feel like our work, yes, we're aimed at helping kids, but I feel like more than anything, we're aimed at helping parents understand and meet their kids where they're at, for a more successful, healthy, loving, joyful relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for a primary caregiver, a parent, a biological, whatever, that's generally the most important relationship. And if that person isn't regulated. If our job is to teach our kids to regulate, and we're not regulated ourselves, that's, it's like having a bad golf coach, or, it's like, hey, let's learn a little bit more about this while we're trying to teach it too. It helps to educate the parents too.
Right. Absolutely. Because a lot of us, either parents or grandparents, there wasn't this awareness yet.
Yeah.
And so,
Yep.
like, our grandparents taught our parents what they knew from their parents, and so on and so forth. And so it takes an individual to really kind of stop and look at the lineage of how things have been done within the families, and then it's their choice to make those changes.
Yeah.
So that we in this generation can begin to teach our children a better way of relating to ourselves, to life, to other human beings. And it really just starts with finding that stillness and quiet within ourselves. And if we, as in this generation, teaching the kids how to be okay with themselves and meet themselves where they are in that moment, and try to find tools and techniques that help them reach their greatest potential, I think is super important. But in order to teach that, the parents have to learn first. They need to learn that if something was done within their family and they didn't like it, to stop and do that inner work and find that stillness within them so that they can make the change for their children.
Yeah. Something, when you said, I love that you use the word, it takes an individual, because that, like, it takes somebody willing to step away from the pack or the way that things have always been done, or the norm, or whatever our friends are doing, or whatever our family did, and whatever influence grandma and grandpa are having on how you're raising your children. And it takes an individual, and it takes bravery and courage to be like, I'm not, the A, B, and C are things that I hated in my childhood, how I was spoken to, or how I was treated when I had trouble, or this or that. And to say, I'm not going to repeat that pattern. I'm going to find the places in my life where I maybe do that. Or maybe the things, that you do with your kids are completely different or new, but we all have flaws. We all have blind spots, and looking at yourself and looking at the places where you don't like the way that you're treating your kids, or you wish that you had more answers on a better way to do things for your kids. That word individual really struck me when you said it. And I was like, it does. It takes a person who can drown out the noise of influence from outside voices, or judgment from outside voices, to decide, not only decide, making the decision is the easy part. Following through, seeking the knowledge, seeking those other modalities, trying things that are completely foreign and weird, or whatever they feel like, is the hard part, the brave part. And when something,
the daily walk.
Yeah. And when something doesn't work, being brave enough to try again, and not think that it means that you were wrong and you should just go back to the way things were.
Yeah. Or it's too hard. Taking responsibility. When you said the word, Noelle, the individual, I flashed on responsibility. Sometimes it's like things are the way they are, good, bad, indifferent. Sometimes you just have to say, quit talking about it would, basically blame. It's like, well, my parent was drunk or whatever caused it. When you're raising your kid, sometimes you just have to go, well, you gotta own that crap, and what do I do about it? And take care of it. That's the individual. The idea of individual kind of boiled down to, okay, this is my problem. How do I solve it? Start figuring out how to make it different if you want it different.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, because there was a saying that like as a child, what was done to you and how it affected you wasn't your choice, but as an adult, it is now your choice to address that and to make changes wherever it needs to be.
Yeah, it's now your. I think they did I've seen that quote. It's not your fault and it wasn't your choice, the way that you got treated as a child, but it is now your responsibility to heal from and not repeat that pattern.
Mm.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, the responsibility word.
Yeah.
And that's one, like I've worked with for years now. And I've never met someone who has not had some grudge they held against their parents in some way. Even if you had wonderful, loving parents, like no human is perfect. And there were things from your childhood that you did not appreciate and wasn't what you needed and all of those things. And so there's been like very deep work, and part of this business being born out of it has been the work of forgiveness or hard conversations with parents about things that hurt us from our past. And but also then not just like, you did this and you did that and you need to apologize to me, but also sitting in like meditation or just like laying in bed for an extra few minutes in the morning when I'm having a hard time and remembering that like my parent also did the best they could. My parent also came from their childhood with all of these things, and look at all of those things they didn't repeat for me. All of the ways that they overcame and did not parent me the way they were parented. But they were still human and made mistakes. And now I have all of those things that I get to not repeat and pass on. And so there's a healthy balance there of recognizing the patterns in your family that are toxic or maladaptive and doing them better, and also not like hating or turning your parents into like monsters because they made mistakes, or
ends up being a victim.
Not victimizing yourself.
You just demonize somebody. It's like, well, you adopt this victimized thing, and instead of being, for me, the words adult starts to jump out. It's like, okay, when you can accept that crap happened in the past and it's in the past, and just start dealing with it, taking responsibility for today and taking responsibility for your children. And there's a fork in the road there somewhere where if you fall back into victimhood and blaming, then okay, you are you probably have to scratch all this, but there's a lack of adultness or something, lack of responsibility there. At some point you have to say, okay, this is mine now, and so what am I going to do tomorrow?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's
stuff.
Yeah. And it's like most
Parenting
of us
just don't do it. That's the final message. Just don't do it.
Yeah. You know what?
Don't do it. No.
We were wrong. You can't fix it.
We're so sorry.
Sorry.
Oh God.
It's tough, dealing with kids as a route to personal growth too. And, the relational thing Jenny's working on, the importance of the relationship with the parent and the child. It's funny how that even gets down to sleep. I just keep seeing that pattern in all these
Mm-hmm.
talks we have. It's like, boy, you got to work on your relationship with your kids, and that just turns into all kinds of thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you've got stuff going on within yourself, your central nervous system is activated, and you're in that fight or freeze,
Mm-hmm.
and just going on this survival
Mm-hmm.
instinct. And
Yeah.
most humans in the world, especially here in America, we're always on, and we're
Mm-hmm.
always just anxious or suspicious, or don't trust, or don't feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
or this, that, or the other. And if an adult, a parent, has that, then they have a hard time regulating themselves. And if they can't relate or regulate themselves, then they have a hard time relating with others, i.e. their children.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're also modeling that.
Yeah.
Kids learn by seeing, and they want to imitate their parents. So if they see that, that's what the child is going to think is normal and right. And so they mirror that, and that's what they do. And it's hard. So yeah, being a parent is hard work. It takes a lot of inner reflection, and really kind of catching yourself first, and working on who you are to relate better. And if the parent can figure out how to just calm down and chill out, they can teach that to their kids. And if both of them are feeling good, then if we're going to bring it, circle back to sleep, then if they're feeling good and relaxed, then they both can sleep better. And sleep can then make you in a better mood. It can make you more present and able to handle and process life. And so yeah, it's just this really hard downward spiral circle. How do you get out? What's that first step to stop spinning through the whirlpool and just kind of stop things? And then you can, find your way out. It's just a matter of finding that one thing that will calm the individual so that they can work on finding that stillness for them, so they can teach it.
Like a big ball of string. Where do I start to unravel this?
Exactly. And
you gotta work on it piece by piece. You can't get overwhelmed by I'm never going to get this whole thing unraveled. It's like, well, okay, there's something to unravel. Let's just start working on that. We'll be done when we're done. You don't worry about the end when you start.
Right. Absolutely. And I like to tell people, I'm like, okay, so what gives you 7? There are so many options. There's, 1 + 6 and 4 + 3, or 49, square root of 49. There are so many ways to get to 7. It's just a matter of finding out which one is going to be the best path for you within that whole algebraic equation thing. Because there are so many answers, but finding which one works best for you. So there's a lot of the times, I'm not saying there's not a wrong answer, but I'm just saying that there are so many right answers.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of finding out which one is going to work.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get in our own way too, because maybe it's 3 and 4 is probably the best answer with this particular child. But if you're insistent that 1 be part of the solution, then it may take you a while to get to 1 and 2 and 4, or you spend time, you get attached to a vision of how it's going to work, and sometimes you got to step back and and maybe work with somebody else. I like the idea that you guys have worked with so many kids. A parent that's raised 2 or 3 kids, that's great. But having gone out and seen 100 or 1,000 kids gives you such a great perspective. You walk into a home, and now you have this broader perspective of what's okay. I've seen 90% of my people do this, or golly, I've never seen that before. That's pretty unusual, good, bad, or indifferent. And I like that. I like the fact that you get this, you bring the perspective of more kids, more parents, than most people get to experience in their lives.
Right.
So,
and sometimes it's like part of being a nanny, sometimes like with the experience that we have now, it's like sometimes these solutions seem simple. It's like the simplest things can be the biggest solution.
Mm-hmm.
But people who haven't been working with kids for a long time, it's not that simple and it's not that obvious. And, but something like, breathing through a crazy straw, something like, of course, now off the top of my head, I can't think of one, but like going outside is one that we've talked about a lot, that can solve a lot of problems. Putting kids in a shower, or in a bath. It's like instantaneous grounding.
Anything from the earth. Water,
yes.
Dirt.
Let's go dig a hole.
Anything naturally occurring.
It can be just such.
Absolutely.
One of my families, my last long-term family, had a huge garden that they moved to that house that already had a garden built, and then we would plant it each year in like maybe 6 months into my work with them. And we moved to that house, and it was so cool to have the garden, and the kids would go out, and like I didn't have to make snack, or like half their meals, I'm telling you, were foraged from the forests of peas and green beans and tomatoes and carrots and raspberries. And like we would go outside.
What a great healthy eating
after
lesson.
And fresh off the vine vegetables. Just packed with nutrients. And we would just go outside and play, and they would eventually just meander into the gardens and start picking things and eating to their heart's delight. And they it didn't ever have to be managed. They would just eat what they wanted or needed for their tummies, and then we would go back to playing. And they were in the dirt, and they would we would look at the worms, and we would learn about what worms do for the dirt and the growth and all the things. And it was just such a natural. Anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole. What I'm saying is, obviously a crazy straw is not from the earth, but there are just simple things. I feel like so many families I've worked with get caught up in the, there needs to be this wildly strict structure and planned activities and planned that and planned this, and everything needs to be bum, bum, bum. And some of that is good. Structure, planning can make your life easier, etc.
Predictability.
Yeah. But I've always, not always, because I used to be a preschool teacher, and I went into nannying with that same mindset of having lesson plans each week, and a theme and a thing and activities always planned constantly. And when I realized that kids preferred cardboard boxes, running around barefoot, and if I put them in the shower with washable paints, and they could just splatter paint everywhere in that shower and on the curtains, and it all just rinsed right off and rinsed them off, and then baths were over for the day. It can be so much simpler than I feel like a lot of mainstream messaging makes it, of how planned and your kids have to be constantly stimulated and constantly entertained and have activities constantly planned for them, and all of these things. And really it's what they need is good sleep, and nature, and less screen time, and your attention and safe attention and real attention and gentleness. And yeah. So anyway, I'm tangenting.
Sleep is one of those few things that if you're deprived of for any serious period of time, you die.
Yeah.
You know, it's not optional.
Yeah.
It's
sleep,
essential.
food, and water.
This is a little
Yeah.
a little bit of social commentary. I think we're busier. Somebody said a couple minutes ago about how we're always on.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a difference between now and when I was a kid, and oh my God, when everybody lived on a 40-acre farm.
Yeah.
You know, with a nuclear family and everything, and bedtime was probably much more predictable, tied to the sun, instead of my phone quit ringing and my friends quit texting things, and creating. It'd be interesting to know, Noelle, in your practice, how much the phone and the tablet and men and women coming home from work and working at home, you know, instead of having a more regulated, hey, I'm at work, hey, now I'm at home, now it's time to raise kids or be a family, and how much how much doesn't get passed along, just like we don't get nutrients in our food like we used to from commercial farming. How much doesn't get passed on from parent to child because everybody's preoccupied and screwing around with TikTok and YouTube, instead of, hey, grandma's here with us, living with us, and she's teaching us the old tricks she had
how to bake or how to put the right butter in at the right time.
And we're more intuitively how to, you know, learning these child rearing skills. You guys are filling a very important niche of, you know, all this experience from all these families that people can access through you. You know, that's very cool. I thought it's very cool. Very cool. I like this. We adapt. This is a real adaptation of society. It's cool to see what you guys are doing.
I feel like I just have this vision of like TV and social media taking over and replacing like the elders who used to pass down their wisdom within families, within tribes, of like people would listen to the elders, and the elders who have seen what's worked and what hasn't throughout their lifetime. And not that elders are always perfect or know everything, but they know a lot. And you can choose which ones to listen to. But I feel like our education and our learning within our families as we grow up has been replaced by go watch TV while I make dinner, instead of, come on, it's time to make dinner, and then showing your kid how to make dinner at the age appropriateness that they can. Or, you know, like you said, grandma's in town and grandma has all the baking secrets of how to make the best bread or the best brownies or the best whatever. And I feel like that has been replaced with there's just this huge separation and gap of adults doing things and kids doing things, and it all needs to be separated. And instead of coexisting, and even into like the elderly population being put into care homes, and they have no access to other generations. They're just surrounded by other sick old people all of the time.
What a waste. Yeah.
And they've done studies now where bringing children into nursing homes, and there's some villages around the world. I can't remember which countries, but I know it might be Finland or one of.
Yeah, I was going to say Finland, Holland, like
where they've created these villages where the elderly they live in homes, but then they're like intertwined in a community. And so the kids with childcare, that's right. And so there's childcare and elderly care in the same buildings and in the same like little neighborhoods and homes. And so there's service people, either nurses or childcare experts or whatever, who are there and monitoring and taking care of the people who need taking care of in both ends of this spectrum. But they're all interacting and engaging together, and like you just watch the elderly, you know, people who have the opportunity to pass along their wisdom to these tiny generations who are coming up, and it's just amazing, and kids love it. It's like, of course I want to hang out with grandma. Why wouldn't I? Like, she's got the coolest stories.
Yeah.
And people live longer.
And I think with that, because and with that generation, they didn't have all the technology.
Yeah.
And so
you had to talk to each other.
For some, I'm sure they adapted it, but it's like that generation is more present with those little kids. And because kids essentially just want to be seen, they want to be heard. And if we have a distracted parent who is so stressed out, either because they didn't sleep or there was just anxiety or something bad happened at work or the parental argument or whatnot, without being present, those kids don't feel seen. They don't feel heard. And therefore a lot of times they feel like they're bad or they're not loved.
Or they grab for attention.
Just because
and like they find ways to get your attention.
Or they'll act out. Yeah, absolutely. And so then those parents think that they need, discipline or punishment, but really it's just a matter of them getting the attention that they want. And that attention is still attention. And that's why it's, again, so important to just, as an adult, as a parent, to just calm down yourself, be present with your kids. And there's so many different, again, what are you going to get to 7? Figuring out what's going to work for you. Is it going to be just blowing through your kid's crazy straw or having your own crazy straw or, your own certain breath techniques? Because there are breath techniques that balance the nervous system. That can connect the hemispheres of the brain, or doing yoga, or taking your shoes off and walking in the grass and grounding and earthing, or, taking a shower and feeling that water just wash everything off you, or, some sort of self-care, self-regulation, figuring out what works for the individual. And I've got so many ideas and suggestions, and it's limitless. To tell you the truth, it's just a matter of finding what works for the individual.
Different things to do to fit these complex systems that households with kids in them are. You had a story about working with an autistic kid, the craniosacral techniques, and an autistic kid, how that affected a child. I thought that was really interesting. Can you share some of that?
Yeah. So, name change. I'll call him River.
There you go.
When I started with River, he was about 2.5. And autistic nonverbal, somewhere between the levels of 2 and 3. There's different variations and levels of autism, but didn't really engage. Eye contact was few and far between. Following directions, that sort of thing wasn't in his wheelhouse. And his mom was recommended, or I was recommended to his mom through a mutual friend. And the first time I went over, he is running around the kitchen island, just, making noises and running. Having fun, just doing what a 2.5-year-old does. And so I talked to the mom and dad for a little bit, and then I got down on the ground, and just so he can kind of be on, or I can be on his eye level, and just started telling him about who I am and what I'll do, and if he was interested in coming to just to kind of to play with me. And his mom said, "Oh well, he won't really respond to anything like that." So I was like, well, okay. So his mom and I got him into his bedroom. We closed the door, and I again explained we're all on the floor surrounded by his toys, and explained, okay, well, so my hands are, can go on your body if you want me to put it, my hands on any part of your body, you can take it and put it where you want. And I said, and if you don't want it, and, I don't have to touch you if you don't want. And just, explaining what I'm going to do. And so eventually he sat down, and I was able to work on his feet. And in the craniosacral world, we call it a still point, essentially calming the flow of cerebral spinal fluid from the brain down the spinal column, down the spinal cord, down into the sacrum, and then back up. So it's it slows it down and kind of resets the central nervous system. And so he just kind of like chilled out. I was like, oh, okay. And then he let me, put my hands in certain places. And there was one point where I said, okay, River, do you want, where do you want my hand? And he took my hand and put it on his body, and we did some work. And he'd get up when his body adjusted to his body relaxing, and he would run around and play, and then he'd come back. And and then by the end, he was laying in my lap. I was able to, to do the work. And our session was only about 30 minutes. Most kids are 30, maybe 40 minutes long. And when the session was done, we opened the door, and he went and laid down on the couch, took all of his stuffies and just put it on top of him and lied there. And his dad came in, and he's like, oh my gosh, he's so chill. What did you do?
What did you do?
And I'm like, well, this is just what did you do to my child? And they're like, this is just the greatness of craniosacral therapy. And so I've been working with him for, I don't know, probably 8 months now, give or take.
Oh boy.
And when I walk in, he sees me, and he grabs my hand, his mom's hand, and he walks us to his bedroom. He will look me in the eye. He will have amazing eye contact. And we've learned that he likes certain things, and then he doesn't like certain things. And, some days he runs around his room, and I'm like, okay, so I'll just give craniosacral to your mom, kind of thing. But also at the very beginning, he would not let me touch his head. And he now lets me put my hands on his head.
I've heard of that before. Okay. That's interesting.
Then there was one night where he just would not let me do work at all. And he wanted to go outside. And, I told his mom, like, if he just needs to get outside and run around, then great. So we follow him out. And he goes and sits in a sandbox. Yeah, absolutely.
I ground before bedtime. I go stand outside in the grass before bedtime.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And he chilled out while he was in the sandbox, and he let me do work while he was playing in a sandbox. So that was me just really meeting him where he was in that moment.
Yes.
And
halfway, yeah.
Yeah, within 6 months, like the first 6 months, he went from the kid at school, and he goes to a therapy school, and he was that kid that the therapists dreaded working with. They did not want anything to do with him. And 6 months later, he got Student of the Month.
Aw. Nice.
So, just being able to kind of regulate him and meet him where he was, he has begun to flourish. And in the last several months, he's started to say some words, and he has better eye contact. And he always, he's been sleeping pretty well. He did have a sleep trainer when he was younger. So sleep wasn't ever really the issue, but other things were. And yeah, he loves it. He loves his craniosacral, and it's lovely and fantastic, and it's fun. It's good stuff.
That's amazing. That's got to be really cool when you see it, when you hit the right technique hits the right kid with the right need.
Mm-hmm.
and you can really see the effect like that. That's great.
Yep. Absolutely. But
No, that's a
yeah.
terrific story. And another thing that we talk about all the time is the younger the better. The sooner you can figure
Yep.
out these interventions and learn these, like I'm trivializing them, calling them tricks. But if you can learn, if you've got things going on in your family that are challenges
Mm-hmm.
for parenting, the learning them at one is better than learning them when the kids are two, and on and on.
Right.
That's very cool. So
Yeah.
so when you stop doing the craniosacral, does the child that was autistic, was he? Do you have to do that forever, or is that something he learns from, or how does it work long term?
It varies from person to person.
Okay.
Think of it like massage for your body. If there's something going on within the head or the cranial nerves, then correlate that to, say you have an injury in your back. You go to massage for regularly to help work it out, and then there's maintenance. And sometimes you need a little bit more maintenance, and then sometimes you can go a long time without it, then you can go back. Same thing with craniosacral. If there's a kid who has ADHD, and he can have a few sessions and learns to regulate, there are there are 3 main techniques that I can teach parents to do on their own kids. So they don't necessarily have to go, but again, going for a revamp, just like getting a massage or a chiropractic adjustment or going to see your therapist, what have you. It's just like any other body work. Yeah.
Very holistic. Very, I like the idea of that there's more than one way to skin a cat thing. There's ways to accelerate healing that would happen otherwise. And very, very neat.
Yeah. And I like to look at the person as a whole, because there's a body, there's a mind, there's emotions, there's spirit, there's everything. And if you just focus on one, then it's going to be a little unbalanced. So working on them as a whole, I think is important, and seeing them as whole and complete already when they come to you. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. Now, can there be improvements to have them reach their highest good and to function better? Absolutely. But everyone is whole and complete.
Are happening to their environment, not to them. So we're bringing it, like the things that you on your assessment, where you're asking in your evaluation, what's their daily routine? How often do they get outside? What's their diet? How much screen time are they getting? How much sleep are they getting? What's the parental temperament? We're talking about their environment. We're not talking about what are all the things that you see that are wrong with your kid. We're looking at all of the things in their environment around them that are influencing the kid, and we're adjusting those things and offering, like craniosacral therapy is offering an addition to their environment that is healing and helpful and calming, versus trying to edit the child. Whenever we talk about stuff like this, the quote that always comes to mind is when a flower doesn't grow, you don't change the flower, you change the environment it's growing in. You change the soil, absolutely. You add water, you put it in the sunshine. All of these same things, like children are just children. Flowers are just flowers. They don't not grow because they're making some kind of conscious choice or they behave some kind of way. It's the environment around them affects the way that they grow.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's a great bumper
I don't want to have to cut this.
Flowers.
Yeah, I don't want to have to cut this off, but there's a major storm raging out here. I don't know if you guys can hear it.
Yeah.
My dogs are freaking out, which is I'm getting a little anxious, and I'm worried that I need to unplug everything. And I don't want
Yeah,
to
no,
lose this
that's fine.
episode from a
Okay,
lightning
I'm sorry.
strike.
I'm sorry. I kind of cut you off before. I
No,
didn't
it's
realize
fine.
it was that bad. I'm
I
sorry.
just, it's pretty heavy. And sometimes when we were on vacation, lightning struck our Wi-Fi. And I don't want to lose
no.
anything.
She was
So
out of commission for a while. Yeah.
we get a little bit more severe storms out this way than we're used to when we were closer to Denver. So, yeah. But
yeah, no, all
this
good.
has been fantastic. Noelle, is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to get to today?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I rambled everything.
So
I think we hit everything on the note sheet too.
So, tell people who are listening, anyone who's listening, where they can find you. And then I will, of course, have all of it linked in the show notes as well.
Yeah, beautiful. So super easy, sensationally wired across the board. So sensationallywired.com. Email is Noelle, Noelle, at sensationallywired.com. I am on Papa Rick, Facebook under Sensationally Wired, TikTok under Sensationally Wired, Instagram under Sensationally Wired. I just tried to keep it super simple. There's no, hashtags or other little things. So sensationally wired across the board. And I look forward to talking with anyone who has more questions. I can answer anything that you might have and see if I can help.
Awesome.
You are out there and available online. Even.
I am out there and available online. And if you're in the Denver Boulder circle, I can definitely do some in-home work or craniosacral around the area. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. We appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate you.
All right.
Great to meet you.
You too, Papa.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Well, did you learn anything new? Or have you heard all of this before? Do you agree with us, disagree with us, have a question? We want to see you in our inbox or via the Patreon page in the show notes. Tap on either link to send us your feedback, share your own parenting story, or support our mission of providing a connected community for all parents. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you loved this episode, click on that little star and give us 5 of them so we can get visible to other parents who are looking for us. This is your weekly reminder. Parents, you already have everything you need inside of you. You are a strong, loving, capable parent. And here, you are never alone. I'll see you next week.